Steven Spielberg has always believed that the best visual effects are the ones audiences don't even notice. That's exactly why his science fiction movie War of the Worlds still looks so convincing nearly 2 decades after its release. Instead of relying entirely on computer graphics, Spielberg combined full-scale practical sets, real aircraft wreckage, miniature models, mechanical props, and cutting-edge CGI to create one of the most realistic alien invasions ever put on film. Today, we're taking a closer look behind the scenes to discover how this unforgettable blockbuster was made. One of the film's most spectacular sequences happens when Ray, Rachel, and Robbie try escaping across the river on a crowded ferry. Just when it seems they finally found safety, a massive tripod erupts from beneath the water, throwing the ferry into chaos before flipping the entire vessel upside down. On screen, it looks like one seamless disaster, but behind the scenes, the ferry you see overturning wasn't a real ship at all. ILM model maker Steve Galley and his team built a highly detailed 1/8 scale miniature, measuring about 21 feet long. Every railing, passenger deck, and even the parked vehicles were recreated, making the model realistic enough for close-up shots. What's even more impressive is that the miniature was never flipped in real water. Instead, it was mounted on a giant rotating rig that slowly turned the ferry nearly 180 degrees. Combined with carefully planned camera angles, live-action footage, and digitally simulated water, the final shot looks completely convincing. Ironically, the biggest challenge wasn't creating the towering tripod, it was making the water behave realistically. A machine that enormous would displace thousands of tons of water, creating massive waves, crashing spray, and thick foam. Instead of animating every splash by hand, ILM used advanced fluid simulations that allowed the water to react naturally to the tripod's immense size, giving the sequence its incredible realism. After the ferry capsizes, Ray and Rachel are thrown into the water. Although it feels like these scenes were filmed in a raging river, they were actually shot inside a massive studio water tank built specifically for underwater filming. Before shooting, Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning trained extensively with professional divers, while an underwater safety team stayed just a few feet away throughout filming. Another reason the sequence works so well is Steven Spielberg's directing style. Rather than relying on shaky camera chaos, he keeps the camera moving with the characters, making every action easy to follow, while keeping the emotional focus on Ray's desperate fight to protect his daughter. Even in the middle of complete destruction, the storytelling never loses its clarity. The basement sequence is easily one of the most suspenseful moments in War of the Worlds, and it also became one of the production's biggest technical challenges. Steven Spielberg wanted audiences to feel trapped underground alongside Ray and Rachel, so instead of depending entirely on CGI, the crew built a massive, full-scale basement set inside a soundstage. The walls were designed to be removable, allowing Spielberg and cinematographer Janusz Kaminski to move the camera freely through the cramped space. Every cracked wall, broken beam, damaged furniture, and layer of debris was physically built, giving Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, and Tim Robbins a completely real environment to perform in. One of the sequence's most unforgettable moments is when the snake-like probe slips into the basement, searching every corner for survivors. Most people assume it was entirely CGI, but that's not actually true. For close-up shots, the filmmakers built a full-sized mechanical probe head that crew members operated on set, giving the actors something real to react to. Whenever the probe needed impossible movements, ILM seamlessly replaced it with a digital version. That blend of practical effects and CGI is a big reason the probe still looks convincing today. Surprisingly, in the same sequence, Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning never acted opposite an alien suit or an animatronic creature waiting in front of them. Instead, the crew placed a life-sized foam and styrofoam maquette on set to mark the alien's height and position. After filming, ILM replaced it with the fully animated creature, allowing the actor's eye lines and reactions to match perfectly. To complete the illusion, nearly every basement shot was lit using practical sources like lanterns, flashlights, and dim household lamps. The visual effects team then matched that lighting perfectly on the digital alien and probe, blending them seamlessly into the real set and making viewers feel as if they're hiding in the basement alongside the character. The giant three-legged tripods from the movie weren't designed overnight. Steven Spielberg and production designer Rick Carter wanted them to feel like ancient alien machines, not giant robots. Before visual effects work even began, the team created hundreds of concept sketches and engineering blueprints, carefully planning everything from the tripod's height and leg movement to the rotation of their heads and the direction of their weapons. These designs became the blueprint for every department, helping cinematographers, stunt team, and VFX artists know exactly where the invisible machines would stand and move during filming. Once the design was finalized, Industrial Light and Magic transformed those drawings into a highly detailed 3D model. But they didn't stop at the exterior. The artists built an entire internal mechanical structure, rigging every joint so each of the three legs could move independently. To make the tripods feel believable, the animation team even studied how a machine of that size would realistically shift its weight with every step. That's why every movement feels incredibly heavy, giving the illusion that these machines actually exist. There's also a clever design detail that most viewers never notice. Almost everything about the alien civilization follows the number 3. The tripods stand on 3 legs, while the aliens themselves have 3 eyes, 3 fingers, and even body proportions built around the same pattern. It's a subtle detail, but it subconsciously connects the aliens with their machines, making the entire civilization feel more believable and carefully designed. After surviving the tripod attack, Ray spends the night at Mary Ann's house with his children, hoping they finally found some safety. But during the night, a passenger airliner crashes into the neighborhood. The next morning, Ray steps outside to discover a world that's almost unrecognizable. Streets that looked completely normal just hours earlier are now covered with burnt-out cars, collapsed buildings, twisted debris, and thick ash floating through the air. To bring that vision to life, the filmmakers transformed an entire suburban neighborhood into a massive practical disaster set. Thousands of pieces of debris were scattered across the streets. Burnt vehicles were placed by hand. Trees were broken apart. Utility poles were damaged, and every surface was covered with soot and ash. As Tom Cruise walks through the neighborhood, most of what you see around him is completely real, which makes the destruction feel far more believable. One of the most unforgettable moments is the enormous airplane crash site outside Mary Ann's home. While many people assume it was created with CGI, most of the wreckage was actually real. The production team acquired parts from a retired Boeing 747, including genuine fuselage panels, engines, and other aircraft components. These massive pieces were transported to the filming location and carefully arranged to make it look as if a passenger jet had crashed straight through the neighborhood. As Ray walks past the burning engines and shattered fuselage, the wreckage surrounding him is largely practical. Visual effects were later used to enhance the environment, but the real aircraft pieces gave both the actors and the audience something tangible to experience. That commitment to practical filmmaking is exactly why this airplane crash still stands as one of the most realistic and unforgettable disaster sequences ever put on screen. If you enjoyed discovering these behind-the-scenes secrets, be sure to hit a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments.